Welcome everybody here, as well as all the friends and family who are watching us on Livestream. Just a few announcements. There'll be some snacky food after, just enough to ruin your lunch. And bathrooms are down the hall over here. There'll be another group coming in after us, so we need to move along and finish up. Use our time wisely. As an intro, I'd just like to say, for those of you who have not met me, I'm Kent. I'm Katie's dad. Most of you have met Lois. She gets around a lot more than I do. And I wanted to introduce Raiden. Come here, hon. I wanted to introduce Raiden and Max. Would you stand, Max, for those who haven't met you yet? This is, just wanted to show off. This is a big part of Katie's legacy right here, Mr. Raiden. Here's what we plan to do today. If Katie had her way, we'd be meeting around a campfire right now, telling stories. I'm going to open up with some things I'd like to say about Katie and her life. If I said everything I want to say, we'd be here for a week, so I'll keep to the script and try to be as short as possible. Then everybody's going to have a chance to come and tell a quick story about Katie. The stories of our life are the only things that remain on this earth. Only the things we do for others have any eternal value. Everything else disappears. It's the greatest commandment we've been given, is to love one another. And feel free to drive your carts or whatever you want. If it isn't a campfire, pretend you're in our living room or kitchen or something. But please be thinking about something to share that would be encouraging for all of us. And you'll be given a time to come to the mic and share. How many of you know right now that you have something to say? That you'd like to come speak? You got Mom. You raise your hands if somebody has something, a story or something they'd like to say. If not, I can easily take up all the other time. So we'll try to limit it to a minute or two, depending on how many people come up. But I want to tell you some things about our life with Katie that you may not know. About a month before Katie was born, I was driving to the post office in Chinook, and God spoke to me as I was pulling into a parking space. His words were so strong, I stopped halfway into the parking space to listen. He told me, "This upcoming birth will demand a lot from you. You must steel yourself, be focused, be prepared, be resolved." By this time in my life, I had learned to recognize the voice of God. And being a man of great faith, I instantly defaulted to fear and dread. I was asking questions to myself like, is Lois going to die giving birth and I'm going to have to raise all these kids? That's how fearful I was. I kept his word to myself. Lois's 5th C-section went well and we had a baby girl. I was pretty excited because I selfishly wanted a child that would sit on my lap and cuddle. My boys were always so active that I could never get my hands on them. It turned out that Katie was worse than they were. I could never get her to sit still in my lap. If you ever see a photo of her on my lap, that means 2 seconds later she was gone in a flash. I kept thinking to myself, did I hear what God said to me wrong? Things progressed very normally with her. Then when Katie was little, over a year old, we found out that she was profoundly deaf. It rocked our world. We were clueless about how to enter into and navigate this new world. But we were all resolved to do everything we could for her. God led us into this amazing new world, and her brothers never hesitated to jump in. We met new people, learned sign language, some of us better than others. We went to new places and learned things we didn't even know were out there. And then Katie took it from there. She was so easy to talk to, even with my poor signing. She didn't read your sign, she read your mind. She knew what you were going to say. I realized not only what God meant about resolve and being focused, but I was in awe of the fact that He knew her before she was born and had a plan for her, of which we were getting to play a part. She was only one of a few people I know who could light up a room when she walked in and smiled at you. If she was your friend, you couldn't have a better one. There aren't enough adjectives in the world to describe her. She was persistent, passionate, funny, carefree, independent, caring, determined, driven, and stubborn. Katie and I would argue all the time about who was more stubborn, her or I. She was determined to try everything at breakneck speed. She was the unsinkable Molly Brown that you couldn't hold down. And I think I lost a page. This often got her into trouble, and she had to live with the consequences we all do when you go too fast and don't think. But God never left her side, but continued to enable and use her. She was also a minimalist. Stuff was not important to her, people were. She became a concerned mother, social worker, advocate, lawyer for those who couldn't help themselves in the deaf community. She was a shooting star in our lives. Almost as if she knew her time was short on this earth. And she needed to feel, taste, touch, and experience everything she could as quickly as possible. She was never ashamed of her deafness, but embraced it and never really yearned to hear voices. All she ever wanted was to hear music. And God was saving that for her. Now it's your turn to fill in the blanks that I missed. And so, if you would, if you've thought of something while I was speaking, I'd like you to come up and form a line over here, 4 or 5 people, and at a time, and whoever can speak. and we'll tell some stories of Katie.
It's so good to see you all here. What I wanted to say, I don't know. One of the things about signing is it's my connection to Katie. So I do it. It's okay. I look in the room and I see, can you hear me okay? I see the many people that she grew up with, mostly in a hearing world. And it taught her many skills. Some she didn't enjoy. Some she didn't enjoy all that much. But we knew as she got older, then she would be having more and more time with deaf people. And as she met them, then she had this life as an adult with a lot of deaf people. It's been wonderful to know her friends. What I think is a really amazing thing about today is the people that knew her young are now getting to meet the people who knew her when she was older. I think it is an amazing thing. I wish it could have happened a different way. So I just thank you all for coming, everyone, for being with us, loving us, especially loving our daughter. And you knew her in good times and bad times. You knew how she could be sometimes. And sorry for my English accent. She would always tell me, Mom, you need to know ASL. It's like, I can only manage one language. I'm sorry. I just, not in my wheelhouse. So, anyone else? I just wanted to think and think of those stories. I can't get enough stories. If you have pictures of her, I would like to have copies. If you have stories, I want to hear them. Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Marit, and did not plan to do this at all, but Kent and Lois, you guys need to hear. My mom was deaf, and my dad was deaf as well. And they went to, my mom used to teach at the School for the Deaf in Great Falls, and even though they used their voices, they signed most of the time. So in our family, we didn't embrace the deaf culture because they wanted to be hearing. But when Katie came along and Lois jumped into learning how to sign and to embrace everything that was about that, she was a good example for me. And then she would bring Katie to my mom so my mom could sign with her. And my mom had polio, so she really only signed with one hand, and she always commented that she didn't do things right. But Katie quickly showed her some things. But my mom became jealous of Katie because Katie just embraced the world, both hearing and deaf. And she used everything she could to manage them both, which my parents did not. I was probably their only tool they used to manage them both. But anyway, I just wanted you guys to know that what a great example she was to my mom, and to me to be respectful of my mom. But to see you embrace her in all her capabilities and gifts and talents has been good for me. And I just recently lost my mom, and my connection to anybody who has some hearing impairments has been limited. So I guess seeing people sign was very welcoming today. So thank you.
Hey everyone, can everyone hear me okay? I don't know if I'll be able to get through this all, because it's been a crying mess the past week or so. I'll leave the sign language up to the professionals. My sign language was what you would know as pigeon. There's too many stories. Like Dad said, I could be up here a month, not tell them all. So I think the crazy thing about my sister is the amount of people that she knew. I've lost count of the amount of people that have reached out. People had met her one time 15 years ago. And they described her to me exactly as she was. A shining star. Too bright. Very bright. She touched more people in her life than I think I ever will. I'm very glad to see you all here, even though I can't see without my glasses. Thank you all for coming. I look forward to talking with you, and we can keep. You don't have to share your story up here. You can share it with the person next to you. She would have loved this. She would have loved the kids running around. She would have loved it. That's who she was. Thank you all.
Hey everybody. So I'm Anna, and Katie was one of my closest friends, and I feel really part of this event with all of you. So excuse me for crying. Katie was really a great fighter, the best fighter woman I've ever seen. Sometimes she was such a funny devil, but we loved her. And you know what? I believe that she believed in all of us. She didn't give up on us. She helped us resolve our problems. She helped us with access through the good and the bad. And raising beautiful Raiden. I remember one day, I asked, do you mind watching? She asked me to watch Raiden. She asked me to watch Raiden. And so, you want to play with my dog? And Raiden said, I know how to do that. Okay, go ahead. So it was so cute. Raiden told him, stay, sit. And then Katie said, that's my little Raiden, but I love him. And really, I'm so happy for all of us, our family and friends, to be here. And I'll never forget Katie's laugh. We accepted each other as equals. And if she wouldn't be quiet, she would speak up for all of us. And now it's our turn to speak up for her and let her be honored forever. Thank you for letting me talk to you. And to Katie's parents, thank you. I love you.
All I can say is Katie was just love. She loved us so much. 12 years ago, I got a divorce, and we were so alone and so sad. And we kind of moved in with the Gilgies. And Katie just loved us so much. I remember just times that she would just huggle with Ruth and tease and torment Noah and the other. And they would just huggle, and she was always there for us. She loved us so much. She put our pictures all over the house. I think they stayed there for 10 years. And every time I walked in, I just felt family because she had our pictures here and all over the living room. And I miss her. I loved her. She was just love to us. She was just love to us. So that's all I have to say.
I don't know if I can do this. I hate public speaking. I'd almost rather sign so half you didn't know what I was saying. But I go way back with Katie, and it's really hard to even try and claim her as my best friend because I can't. She had too many. So it's awesome. Some very small memories that I have that are just huge. I feel like a piece of my heart's been cut off, actually. It's kind of crazy. But Tim, I don't know. We used to scheme and try to figure out how we could get our brothers to marry each other in our little friend circle so that we could be sisters for real. And it was great, and Tyler wasn't for it, Tim wasn't for it, and look what's wrong with us. We're great. We can just switch. Anyway, but okay, so now she was always so good at making sure I included my little sister. My little sister Monica, I couldn't stand her when she came along, and I was like, dang it. She looked at me and said, you go play by yourself if you won't play with all of us, because that's not nice. And it was just so good. I don't know. I loved that girl. Thank you, Lois. When Kent said that she never sat still, I remember watching her run right into the counter, and I was yelling at her, trying to get her to stop, because she was looking behind her. And she hit it and fell flat on her back. And I was like, oh my gosh. She just hurt herself bad. She stood up and looked at me and said, where are we going next? I was like, you're going to have a bruise on your face for months. Oh man, it was cool. I couldn't imagine her. But man, a point that really struck me in my life with her is one time when we were teenagers. We got in a fight, and it really hurt, and I wasn't sure what to do about it, but she made me mad. And for the first time in my life, I reacted by hitting somebody. She turned around and slapped me right back in the face, and I was like, never again will I use that. I can't do it. I didn't even faze her, because she was like, you think you can hurt me? I've got brothers, I got more than you, so it doesn't matter. But a pivotal point that is kind of fun that I didn't think about before, but I realized I'm now a hairstylist, and the first person that I ever actually messed hair up on was Katie. Yep, Lois is saying that. She wanted to go pure blonde, and she had the bleach. She bought it from Walmart, and I said, that's wrong. I just don't know why. She's like, well, you're going to school. You'll find out soon. Just do it. It'll be good practice. She told me later she went to a real stylist, and they said, never, ever screw your hair up like that again. But she was patient with me, and she said I'd be really good one day, and now I'm there. But I love your family, and I'm so sorry. I'm here, and thank you for letting us share this with you.
I'm Katie's cousin on her Gilgy side, and I was just trying to think of fun memories as kids. I remember going on a trip and me being scared for her deafness, but she was never bothered by it. And Lois tried to make her independent. And she made her go up to the McDonald's counter and order by herself. She was probably like 7. And I'm older than her, so I was, whatever, I was 15 or something. And I was just like, oh my gosh, why would you make her do that? Like, I don't want to go order chicken nuggets by myself. And, but Kent, Lois, you raised her to be proud of who she was. She wasn't ashamed, and she wasn't scared. My side was always not very good because we were only around each other about once a year. So when she would come over, or when she'd come visit us in Wisconsin, we'd write notes back and forth, and we'd just sit at the table with our little notepads and just write and laugh and write and laugh. We were talking about a memory of when she was really little. Someone had taught her this trick of where she'd string imaginary sewing needle, because she had such good facial expressions, and she'd put it through her lips, and then she'd like do all these little tricks, and you could just see her across the room, and she would just be like, she was just so funny. And one other memory, and that family's not here, so I can say it. We were at a family wedding, and we're all sitting up there. The bride starts coming down the aisle, and she had gained a little weight. And Katie goes, and we were all like, yeah, shh. You don't say that at their wedding. But it was just so who she was. And recently, we talked this summer some, and I was trying to get her to do a sign language video of a Bible verse for me so that I could teach my kids. And she said, I'll see if a friend can do it. And I said, you're deaf. You should be able to sign this Bible verse. And she's like, I'm not very good at it. She's like, it's a lot harder than it looks. I do sloppy signs. So I'm sad that she never made that video, because that would be precious to have now.
I wasn't intending to say anything to you guys, but I didn't know Katie too well. I was a little bit with the older brothers, but something about the Kilge family. My wife and I have 10 beautiful children because of you, Kent. And there's a hope in your family that I can't describe, other than God is so good. And your story with your family is one of the things that inspired my wife and I to let God control our love story and just live life to the fullest. And I see that in Katie and Tim, Jesse, Cody, Kirby, and their families. This is something that will live on for I love you guys. Thank you.
Well, Katie and I are a Game of Thrones geek, Like, she always named people who we are. I'm a Kingslayer, she's a Dragon Lady, and Master Jon Snow, who knows nothing. Sorry, you still know nothing. Anyway, well, Katie, just her smile, it's just, wow. When I walk in the room, everyone smiles, yeah, but when Katie walks in the room, it's like she cured everyone with cancer free. It's like wow. Just, yeah, Katie likes to, do double dare. It'd be like, oh, I can do this, I'm like, oh, I know you can. No doubt about it. You have all brothers. Like, yeah, one time, my favorite story at my house, Katie always say, I bet you can't run around naked around the house in the snow. I'm like, oh, we can. Katie, I double dare you. I'm like, oh, I can't back down from that. I'm like, all right, well, Robert and I, we stripped naked, and we ran around the block. Well, half a block, there's a cop there. I'm like, oh, great. I can do it. I ran, and Robert's like, we're tired. Oh, great. We got back in the house. We got lucky. We're looking out the window. Katie's like looking at us with our shoot butts, Like, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, Katie, Katie has brought so much light in this world. There's no one can beat Katie's smile. It's just wow. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So, thank you, Katie.
I've only known Katie maybe 3 years, but all these years I was just really grateful that I was a part of her life. Even though a lot of you guys over there just know her from all these years, but it's just, she was the reason why I watched Game of Thrones and Robert, but then after I found out that she was gone, I'm like, it won't be the same without her. She's part of the reason why I now live in Montana. She really changed my life, and she pushed me to show me that I can go far in life, and I never see myself standing here, being in Montana and being part of the deaf world, and it wouldn't be for her. But I love you guys.
I knew Katie for forever, and I can remember the first time I met her was at Tyler's house. She showed up with long boots, and her hair was what? Short pixie cut. So we met and became good friends. And then later, we became closer, and I remember moving to town, back to Great Falls, to to live with my ex-girlfriend. And every Tuesday night, Tyler and I would go, and Katie would just show up at the house and watch movies all night. Game of Thrones. Oh, thank you. Game of Thrones episodes every night. It was so fun. It was really amazing. And then I remember a few months ago, Max and Katie and Raiden came to visit me at Skylar's, okay, in Idaho, and we stayed for a month. That was fun because we started a new tradition every night playing trivia games, and Katie always would control the iPad and say, no, and then, oh, I'm wrong, oops, oh, you're right. It was really fun. So a lot of memories with her. She was like a little sister to me. We would argue over stuff. Deaf people know about that. I will really miss her so much. Thank you. I love you.
Hello. The first time I met Katie, who passed in 2013. How I met Katie was a funny way. I was sleeping for what the next day, and they woke me up. That's how I met Katie. She was really easy. That night we started. I knew Matt and Katie we were average together. And then, like rest of the band that we planted in Missoula, this how we built our relationship, how we were in one big group in Missoula. Then Mary, 2013, just good memory, and then so many camping trips. Then becoming roommate with Katie and Matt, and I got to see raising the baby, the girl, and moved back to Carlsbad. The memory of having all night, 3 a.m., start after start, that's Katie. Always full of laughter. Always, everyone loved to be around him. Lived in her leading and carry on in her memory.
Hello, everybody, and excuse me for my sighting. I'm a little bit lousy sighting, but when I met Katie camping in Glacier National Park, and I can remember her smile and saying hi, and I don't think I've met you before. And then she asked if I'd seen her at Great Falls. I don't hang out a lot. I'm not getting what you're saying. Okay, I live on the reservation. And so when Katie, she was always so happy and positive with everybody in the deaf community. She'd always smile. And also when I would go hang out with her over the years, I always felt encouraged like I could, because I could see that she could. And that's why I felt I've gone through hard times and depression and problems. But Katie was always the one who would pull me out of so many different situations over and over. She'd be real tough. Nothing new with Katie. And then when I'd show up at Max and Katie's house, she'd say, go do your homework. And I'd already do my homework. And she'd boss me around, fine. Okay, having a shot. She would tell me to take a shot. And then I'd sit down, okay. See, what do you want? And then I know you. Okay, I need help. Can you help me, Max? Oh. So he was supposed to be doing his homework, but Katie convinced him to take one shot after the next, and then his brain wasn't working because he had too many shots. So I'm warning that my sign is lousy. I'm sorry. Okay. So thank you for Max explaining for me more clearly. And Katie was such a funny woman in my life, always making people laugh. And sometimes when we'd meet a new deaf person, Katie would be the first one to look them right in the eye and Katie was a mom to everybody. She would make sure that those new people were okay, and I like that. It was embarrassing, but still happy. And I recognize all of the people are having a hard time trying to smile, but we need to keep going, and that's what Tyler was talking about too. With Katie, could brighten the world. And Raiden knows me. So that's what we can do. Thank you for listening to my story. Love you so much.
Okay, I wasn't ready to do this, but I'm Katie's aunt. And I remember the day that we found out that Katie was deaf. Kent and Lois decided they would do an experiment because they knew something was wrong. So they were traveling to Helena, and they decided to have the older boys all have pots and pans and wooden spatulas or whatever. And they decided they'd wait till Katie was asleep, and then they were gonna have all the boys hit as hard as they could on the pots and pans. And Katie never woke up. They knew then that she was deaf. But to confirm that, they made an appointment with the audiologist there. And when he did the testing, he said that was the first time he's ever tested anyone that was a child that was completely born deaf. And he was a very kind man. He never even charged him for that visit. Anyhow, we love Katie, her happy, smiling face. But one thing that was very funny, she had no idea when she touched hard and didn't understand that that would hurt people. So her cousins, and definitely Tim, got a lot of beatings. And it's so natural for all of us to yell at her and say stop. And you would do it, and then you would turn around and go, oh, duh. And then you just have to go run and grab her. And I remember the first time, too, when she was at our house. We were outside playing, and she decided she's going to run across the street. It was the natural thing you do. You yell. And she never responded. And first thing you know, all of us is running as fast as we could because there was a car coming to grab her. And we were all willing to give up our lives just to save her to do that. One time they came to visit, and her cousin here had a pet guinea pig, and its name was Pooh. Katie, if people didn't know, Katie loved animals, and she loved that thing to death. And that's because she would actually take it and just squeeze it, because she loved it so hard, and she couldn't hear it, and it would just squeal. It's so hard to run up there and say, and to try to grab it, because she wouldn't let go. Save the poor thing's little life. Marissa, you want to tell about the phone?
Sure, I'm Marissa. I'm Katie's cousin. My brother, Katie, Tim, and I, we spent a lot of time together growing up. And I have a lot of memories of Katie. And I remember the one time that Lois came down to visit without Katie and left Katie with Kent up here in Havre. And in between the drive of Lois driving down and getting to Helena, we kept getting calls from the TTLY number, is that what it is? And it was a man on the line, and he kept saying things like, "Mom, come home, sob, sob. Mom, I miss you," hysterical sobbing. And it just went on. And about 10 minutes later, we'd get another call. "Sob, sob, I'm really crying. Mom, please come home." And so all night we got these calls until about 10 p.m. Lois showed up. And I don't know how they communicated, but Lois was like, "Katie, stop. It's going to be just fine. You'll be fine with your dad." I also remember I broke my arm because of Katie. We had a family reunion, and my Aunt Susan's cat had just had kittens, and Katie loved the kittens, and they were like 2 days old. And we kept telling Katie, "You can't play with the kittens. They are too little. They need to stay with their mommy." And she kept going and grabbing those kittens. And so there I was, chasing her again, trying to get her to take the kitten back to her mom, the mom. And I fell and broke my arm. And I was like, that's awesome. I think I was maybe 9. One of my other favorite memories is Tim, in his wisdom, taught us some bad words in sign language. And they were bad words for, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, like sour lemon and, I don't know, poopy head or something like that. And so we would run around the yard and call Katie these names. We were awesome cousins. And this particular time, she ran into my parents' house and locked the door. Locked us completely out of the house. Tim and I got in trouble. I don't know how we got back in the house, but somehow we did. That's one of my favorite memories of both Katie and Tim, and we just had a lot of fun. Katie was a lovely person, and I'll just remember her kind, sweet, bright spirit. So, Katie, we love you. We miss you.
Just to reemphasize, she was a free spirit and a loving spirit, and she loved everyone. She always had room in her heart for one more person. Love you.
Moral support here. This is like a nightmare for me being up here. then I realized Katie would tell me to get my butt up here and to suck it up. So I am like the world's ugliest crier, and I'm kind of regretting not being better at sign language, but I realized that would be even uglier, so just bear with me. I actually wrote this just the other day to the family, and I ran and grabbed it out of your card. So, I can't. Yeah, I said that would give me tears of a whole nother kind to drink Kent's coffee, but no words are adequate enough. To express how deeply sorry I am. Sorry. Oh, I'm the worst. For the loss of your beloved Katie. I was reading through all of our old letter exchanges, and there's about a pile high. And just was reminded of all the treasured memories we had together. Just being reminded of her tender and loving relationship with Jesus. And her thoughtfulness and compassion toward other people, her dreams and who she aspired to be, it just brought me so much joy, and I couldn't help but smile. She was the perfect balance of sweet, a little sassy, a lot stubborn, compassionate, kind-hearted, courageous, brave, hilarious, strong, and so much more. It's so special being able to read through those letters and remember just how big her heart was. I have endless cherished memories. And it seemed as if we were inseparable, aside from the times that we actually needed to be separated, which was often. Anytime her and I used to fight, we would try to beat the other to signing "I'm not your friend anymore," over and over, and would get mad at the other person for saying it first, and would get in each other's faces. We still, we would take a break from each other and could pout over whatever stupid thing it was that upset us, and then would apologize and move on like nothing happened, and that's the beauty of her heart. She was always so quick to forgive. We still laughed about it to this day at how ridiculous we were back then. I remember the times we would try to run away together. We packed our little backpacks with books, snacks, and anything else that was clearly not going to keep us alive or warm for long, and hoped that someone would come looking for us. Obviously, no one ever noticed we were gone, and as soon as we got cold or ran out of snacks, we'd give up the mission. We would watch Sleeping Beauty on repeat and still manage to get scared every time the evil witch came on and clung to one another each time. Playing for hours on end, going for walks, going to visit the neighbors by our houses, and feeding the baby lambs were also some of my favorite memories with her. Her bravery always astounded me, and I always looked up to her for it. She was never afraid to get her hands dirty, climb on things, talk to people, or be herself around others. She taught me that you could be a tomboy and a girly girl at the same time. She always encouraged people and had this magical way of being able to see when a person's spirit needed lifting and succeeded at doing it. These memories of her are what bring a smile to my face, and I hope it can bring a smile to yours as well.
Katie was beautiful inside and out. And she will be missed on this earth as deeply as a person can possibly. Can possibly miss another. And I can't help but wonder how majestic the sounds of heaven are. I find it really cool that she gets to hear them before the rest of us. You guys are family to me. Ugh. And I love you all so much. I'm so sorry.
I have to just share my earliest memory of Katie, because I would give her a bad time about it every time I saw her. I wouldn't let her forget this. I was a little teenager when you had Katie, and I'll never forget. She was the most throw-up-iest baby I have ever met. And I remember I just loved the Gilgy girl. There was finally a girl in that family. And I just pictured that so differently because she was a tomboy. But one time I was a little teenager and I had gotten ready to go out on the town or something, I don't know. And I just remember picking up Katie and just like playing with her. And the moment I threw her up in the air, she threw up this massive amount of throw up right down my shirt. So I'll never forget that moment in time. It was pretty cute. And then the other thing I always gave her a bad time about was I always thought, Tim, you need to write your stories down because I just love them, and she needs to be a part of those. And I'm like, Katie telling me all about eating fried frog legs that she caught and managed herself and cooked. I was like, that girl was the best. So, love you guys.
I'm Sue, Lois's sister. I just have a couple of things from the mom's standpoint. When Lois would come visit, I think one of my kids, who was Katie's age, maybe Dan, and he was gonna take off and run, and she just grabbed him and just jerked him, and I was just shocked. But that's what she had to do to Katie. She had to grab her. She couldn't yell. And I remember thinking, oh, my land, it really changed the world. Because Katie was different with that. And you apologized right off, probably because my face was so shocked, because it was dramatic. But I just remember being so impressed. Well, I love Lois's music. She played beautifully. And then when Katie couldn't hear, I think you stopped playing a little bit. And I missed the music because Lois was good. Anyway, I felt bad about that, but knew she'd find a way. And that she signed all the time and worked so hard so Katie could understand. And so whenever I visited, I don't cry pretty either. So when Katie would, I knew I could talk with her because she would interpret. She knew what I was saying. So it was just the way she was. So I'll sit down.
I'm Lana. I'm Katie's cousin. Oh, sweet Katie. I have a memory, well, there's lots of memories, but I feel like one's just sticking out to me. I remember we were in and I think it was Mom's car, and Katie asked me if I wanted to learn sign language. And I said yes, and she was so excited. We both, And after that, we just built this
a relationship of teacher and student, you know, and she showed me, Katie really just showed me how to communicate in all different forms and how to be fearless with connecting with people. I feel like growing up with her has really given me a strength that, an advantage in my life, just knowing her and being blessed by her presence. And that's, oh yeah.
Hi, I'm Gilletta. I was Katie's sister-in-law. A couple memories. The first time I met Katie, I was still dating Tim, and I walked into the house, and I looked up, and I could see up the stairs that Katie was sitting there staring at me, and there was chaos happening behind her. Everybody was talking and yelling and having a great time, and she was just focused on me. And she ran down the stairs, and she said, "Hi, I'm Katie. I'm your new sister." And I was like, "I'm still dating Tim." And she's like, "Don't worry, I'll make it happen." I was like, okay. And from that moment on, we were sisters. She took our engagement photos for us. She climbed up on a rock with a camera. I mean, a massive boulder. I was like, "Thank you for doing this." And she said, "That's what sisters do." When I was in college, I wanted to be able to speak with her, so I took a sign language course for a full year. And she was like, "This is so awesome," and she was helping me learn sign, and I said, "This is what sisters do." And then the last memory I have of Katie, she stayed with us for, I think Max was there too, actually. You guys stayed with us for about a week. She left, and she had taken a bunch of my shirts. I was like, "I cannot find these." I looked for weeks and weeks. And she was finally like, "Oh yeah, I took them, they're mine now." I was like, "Why would you take my shirts? That's very odd." She said, "That's what sisters do." But that's all I have, just memories.
I didn't know Katie super well, but I did this one job with her. It was late at night. We were gonna start cleaning apartments together after people moved out. And this was the first one that we did together, and it was the most disgusting apartment I have ever seen in my life. And I was like, "There's no way. We're not gonna get this done. It's terrible." I was having a terrible attitude, and she's like, "This is fine. We're just gonna do it." And so she attacked everything with vigor and with the joy of the Lord. She was happy the whole time, and I'm telling you, this was disgusting. I mean, there's dog poop, dog pee everywhere. We get to the kitchen, the ceiling is like brown because of the oil and everything, and so then we're wiping out the cupboards, and there's like these specks of like ink or something, and it turns like the whole cupboard's like black. Like, we're like trying to wipe it out. We've used all of our towels, and it's just spreading. It's just getting all over the kitchen, and we have no idea what to do. And that was Katie. She has spread and touched so many lives, and I think God gave her that. And she had such joy over everything. Even that, like, we couldn't get the ink cleaned up, and her life is gonna be like that ink. You can't get it off. It's gonna touch everybody, and she had the joy put in her heart by Jesus. And you guys did an amazing job with your little girl. I love you guys.
My name's Sally, and I didn't know her super well because I didn't get a lot of time around her, but her mom's one of my best friends. And I have been to a lot of funerals where there's a lot of awkward silence when the mic is open, and this is amazing. And that is a tribute to you, Lois, and to you. Amazing. And the things I'm hearing about her is joy and strength and warrior and fighter. And the thing that each of us should desire to do is at least make a difference. And look what she did in the short time that she got to be here. So I'm so proud to know you. Great job.
See if I can do this. If you haven't figured it out, I'm Kent's brother. I guess I'm representing our siblings. Many couldn't make it, but I know that Katie just touched every one of us. She was unique. I keep thinking about a word to describe her. An old soul, a free spirit. Unique as one, but genuine. She wouldn't lie to you. She'd tell it to you straight. As one of the first signs she taught me, we were in the dining room at my place, and she said, she called me a fat cow. Yeah, that was Katie. We'd joke with each other, and it was great how she could. My signing was horrible. In fact, she made a comment that since I lost my thumb, I speak with an accent. So many times, and the few times that we were able to be together, she impacted us to no end. Going through the pictures of that trip we had up in the Bitterroots, and you see Katie in the back poking around a rock, looking through the cracks of a barn, always a little sneaker checking out what the adults were doing, and then immediately running up and giving Linda hugs when she needed them the most. And she was such a good hugger. She knew when you needed it. She was there. It was honest. You could feel her heart. You could feel her soul. And when I got the word that Katie had passed, thought came through me, what was the first sound that she has ever heard? Was it the clamoring around as her soul left the mortal coil? Was it greeting Ma and Dad at the gates of heaven? Or was it the voice of our Lord just welcoming her home and letting her know that she has done a wonderful job and has succeeded in everything that He wanted her to do? We're going to miss her. But I guess her time on earth, she has succeeded what she was supposed to do. Has touched many, many lives, and hopefully has spread the joy of Christ to all of us. And I just wish I had her longer. Thank you.
I am sorry. I am sorry. We need to be collected here because of what happened. I'm sorry. Katie, as my best friend, I was able to give everything and ask for nothing. She was there for me when I needed someone. I needed someone to talk with. She was there. Always, always without judgment. Without any second guesses. Nothing. She was there. Everything I went through, she was there. She was my best friend. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We have to be here for Katie. But we have to be here for Katie because she touched everyone here. And she wasn't only my best friend. She was a wife. She was mother. And she deserved so much. And like I said, I'm sorry. We're here for her. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I get to see everyone here. May not know you. May not understand you. But we're here for the same reason. And I'm happy for it. And I'm sorry. I did. You know, I didn't have a speech planned. I'm sorry if I talk a lot. But Katie showed me a different world. She showed me there was so much more that I didn't understand. And I was able to share it with so many people. And I was. And I'm happy for it. Because I have so many best friends. I want to say, thank you. Thank you. Because you guys let me in. Without question. Without judgment. I was allowed in your world. I got to know one of the best souls. And she passed. And, but part of my story was this. Katie and I, we did it a few years, a long time ago. That was our history. But it birthed a beautiful friendship. And we stayed friends. We stayed connected. I'm so happy for it. Because I don't know where I'd be if I got 2 DUIs in 1 year. Because I was stupid. I was dumb. I wasn't thinking. Katie kept me straight. She kept me thinking. Kept me saying, her right now. Just don't let it carry on. Katie always had a plan. It's stupid, it's dumb. But Katie, she always had a plan. And she helped me. And in the first couple years we dated, I stole this. Stole it from Katie because I always wanted one thing to remember her. And I did. And every day when she saw it, she yelled at me. She didn't judge me, but she understood. I wanted one piece. I get to have one piece. That's this. Yeah, but now we have to say goodbye to our best friend. To the one person we got to unload to without judgment. We need to say goodbye. We have to say goodbye. There is no more second chances. This is it. But we get to say goodbye together. Because Katie wants that.
We don't here say goodbye. We tell her we'll see her later. Okay?
I like that better. Just please, everyone, like you said, it's not goodbye. We'll see you later. Okay? And with that, we need to carry on and do what Katie wants. And we will see her later. We will.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
That's okay.
I was hesitating because I never personally met Katie, but you've all done an excellent job of painting a picture As I was listening to everyone, I visualized a feisty young girl, independent, strong-willed, someone that was not afraid to speak her mind, someone that was an encourager. Someone described her as a social worker. So a number of things, kept coming into my mind and my spirit. It made me realize that purpose has got nothing to do with the number of years that you live, because we have a young girl that has touched so many lives. And one of the stories that came to mind is a story that I heard a long time ago, and excuse my accent, but it's a story of, I believe it's the it's the Borden legacy, the people that make the milk, Borden. And I read a long time ago that the son of, I believe it's James Borden, the founder of the Borden legacy, he shocked his family when he told them that he wanted to be a missionary, and they were upset that he was living he wanted to live the family was affluent, and now he was saying that he wanted to go to China to be a missionary. So the father was very upset and threatened to disown him, but he took it a step further and said that he felt that his dad had called him to, he felt that God had called him to go to China. So he left everything that was comfortable, and he set out to fulfill his dream. He never made it to China. They say that he actually passed away in Egypt. But they say that those that visited this guy, William Borden, they went into his hospital room, and just on the wall was a piece of paper that had the statement. It said, "No reserves, no retreat, no surrender." And he said that even though I never made it to China, I have no reserves, no retreat, no surrender. I never backed down. And that's what I kept hearing as everyone was sharing. Katie appears to have been a young woman that had no reserves. If she had a word of encouragement, she gave that word of encouragement. If she had rebuke, someone else spoke about how they got clapped, she clapped you right back. She was a social worker, and then someone shared about how she embraced the deafness. She was not ashamed, no surrender. So to the family, I wanted to encourage you that in the days ahead, my prayer is that one day you would also get to that place where you'd say, no reserves, no retreat, no surrender. You did not hold back on the love, on the encouragement. You did not back down. And because she was such a larger-than-life personality, you've painted a good picture. In the days and in the months ahead, I would encourage you, when you feel that void, there's just a void that can only be satisfied in Christ Jesus. So my prayer is that in those times, you would remember the positive, and then you'd also get to that place of no reserves, no retreat, no surrender. But thank you for allowing me to share.
Is that okay if I share something real quick? I'm sorry. I'm stepping out of my interpreter role here for a minute. Because I am up here as an interpreter because of Katie. And so my family was good friends with the Kirsten family, and the Kirstens are good friends with the Gilgies, and everybody loves the Gilgies. They're so cool. And when they found out that Katie was deaf, we all went and took sign class at MSDB because we wanted Katie to have a community of signing. And I fell in love with sign language and deaf culture, and I ended up marrying a deaf man, and I have 2 deaf kids, but it's because of Katie. And our lives weave together in a beautiful tapestry, and we don't always understand the intersections, and the master weaver has a plan that we don't always understand. And I think I'm sure I'm not alone in this, like, what? This can't be. My motivation for the start of this journey that's impacted my life is now not here. And how, God, what are you thinking? How can this be? But he's the master weaver, and he knows our lives are precious. Each person's, Katie's, is so precious, and each of our lives are so precious. And so that trust that God knows what he's doing as he's weaving this tapestry, and we don't know our time. We don't know how we're going to impact and affect other people. So thank you, Lois and Kent, for sharing your treasure and changing our lives. We're going to miss Katie. Step back over here. Oh, wait, I have to tell you one more thing. I'm sorry. So, Max, I remember when we were rafting. I was married to Hollis already and had kids, and Hollis loves to raft, and it was maybe the Blackfoot River? I'm trying to remember. I think I maybe accidentally on purpose blocked the river names from my mind. But I was giving you a ride. Do you remember this? And because you were joining them somewhere on the river. I can't remember exactly all the details, but Max is sitting there across from me, and we're talking, and he's like, I like that Katie, and I'm going to make her my wife. Do you remember this conversation? I was like, oh, really? We'll see. And there you are. And Max, you have a very special place in my heart because of that. And you're a strong person, but we are here, and you're going to feel that. I think about you every day, and I'm praying for you. So, love you.
So, me and Eric, we grew up with Katie, and it was pretty fun. It was great, and it kind of sucks for me now because I don't remember it because I was so young. And one of the things I do remember of Katie was when we lived in Bozeman. We were in the kitchen, and it was Anna and Katie that were sitting there, and they had this camera. And I don't know why I only remember this memory out of all of them, out of all the great ones. It was this one, and I just remember this picture. Every time I see it, I just remember this moment. And one of the things that Katie taught me with that one picture was how to love someone that was hard to love. And Anna, I know we had a really rough time with her when we were younger. I know Bubba did. Yeah. And I know it was really tough to love her. And with that one picture, I just remember it just taught me how to love others that were unlovable, it just seemed. And I know, gut punch. But yeah, and now I live by that. I realize, and now I just love everyone I can. So, final word is thank you, Katie.
To kind of go along with that, the inseparable memories of Anna and Katie growing up for me. Katie was an older sister to me, and she was the one to knock sense into me, and I needed it. I needed every bit of it. I was that young, annoying scrapper that you Gilgies probably hated, but Katie was awesome, and I'm sorry to see her go, and excited to see her someday. But yeah, thank you guys.
I remember, Anna, your story about marrying brothers so you could be sisters forever. When Katie was old enough to realize no more sisters, no more children coming, she decided the only way she would get that is if she could get her brothers married. So that was her mission, to get her brothers married. And Jessie, the one conversation I remember she had with you, wasn't it? You were between girlfriends, and so one was married. Jessie's on her target. So, when are you going to get married? And Jessie said something like, well, I don't have anyone serious. I don't have anyone. I'm not dating anyone. She said, well, go out and date someone. And he said, well, it can't just be anyone. It needs to be someone special. Well, then I have to wait till I meet someone special. Well, go out there and find someone special. It's like, why do I have to line this whole thing out for you? It's just, and Jessie did. He waited a long time. That's how she got her sisters. When I think of that with her brothers, it was like goal. When the boys married, then she had her sister. That was one of my kids.
Who took my glasses? Thank you. It's kind of funny when I first said, we'll tell some stories. Does anybody have anything they want to say? I didn't see a hand out there, and now all of a sudden it's like, is there anybody who didn't tell a story? But I thought, as you were talking, of course, I thought of a bunch more stories, especially in her teenage years, which were confusing and troublesome, and things that I had to go through that I didn't have to go through with the boys. And I think we're doing okay on time here. I'll just tell one of them. But I remember coming in the house after work one night, and Katie was just sobbing on the kitchen counter. And I was like, oh, no, not again. And I was used to the boys going through their teenage years, and, if there was any issues or whatever it was, you just slap them upside the head, and that was it. It kind of took care of it. But when you got this crying, sobbing girl, I just didn't know how to deal with it. And so I tried to be, okay, honey, what's wrong? And she just kind of sobbed out, I just don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And I'm like, I don't know if I can solve that right now for you. But I said it helps me to think in increments. And one of the things with her is she thought so fast about her future that I would sit down with her and we would make a list of things that she could check off to get her closer to where she wanted to be. And so I said, remember the list that we made. What was the first thing that you needed to get done? And she said, pay my car off, get my car paid off. And I said, well, that's the second one on the list. What's the first one? And she said, she only had one class to finish in her correspondence school to graduate. And it had been months, and she could have done it at any time. And I said, and so she said, finish that class and graduate. And I said, well, why don't you do that? And then she started sobbing again, and then she said, because when you finish school, then your life starts, and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So it was, I don't do well with girl problems, and I don't know if that helped or not, but anyway, there'll be lots more stories that come up, and as we visit, just continue to tell them now and the rest of your lives, because that's how we keep her alive in our lives. But basically, I just want to kind of wrap up, and this is what I wanted to leave with you. We all desire to hang on to her as best we can, in any way that we can. And her ashes are in this urn down here.
But we have to realize that's not Katie. The Katie we loved on earth is here, in our hearts and in our minds. That's the Katie. But you need to know, most importantly, what it was that you saw in her. It was the love of Jesus shining through her, is what you saw. God made her special, but it was only his love that's what impacted all of you. She believed God at an early age. She didn't just believe in God, she believed God. There's a big difference. What was it that she believed? She recognized that in the eyes of God, she was not good enough and needed a Savior. How good do you need to be right with God? You have to be perfect. She realized she could not do that on her own, so she believed, and the Spirit of God convicted her of sin, and she confessed. Now, the word confess comes from two Greek words, meaning basically to say the same. So when the Spirit of God shows you who you really are and your unworthiness, you can either ignore it, argue with him about how good you are, or you can say the same. And you can say, yes, that's me. That's who I am. Then he tells you the gospel, which means literally the good news. The good news is that he sent his son Jesus to die for your sins, so you won't have to die an eternal death. And all you need to do is believe him. When you believe, he makes you his child and sees you as perfect. Man has this innate ability, and religion in general has this uncanny way of making this good news into bad news somehow. Jesus made it simple. When walking with some disciples one day, they asked him, "What must we do to do the works of God?" They knew they had to get close to God. What do we need to do the works of God? He answered simply, "Believe in the one whom the Father has sent." Doesn't get any simpler than that. When you believe, you become a son and a daughter to him, and he promises to send his Spirit to live in you and comfort, teach, and direct you as he slowly changes your mind and heart into his image here on earth. He promises he will never leave you, and he will cover every past, present, and future sin, so we are pure in his sight, even when we don't see ourselves that way. Perfection. Oh, and he promises that no one can pluck you from his hand. How perfect is that? What you saw in Katie was Jesus being manifested in her life. I have a favorite saying that Katie epitomized, and I've got it on the back wall there. It goes like this: if you see people as losers, you will treat them with contempt. But if you see people as lost, you'll treat them with compassion. That's how Katie saw people. She saw them as somebody who was just lost and needed some direction. She never judged people. She loved them, particularly those who seemed unlovable. Just always remember, these ashes in the urn are not Katie. They will be distributed at locations she loved as she requested, because Max and her had talked about it beforehand. She lives in our hearts and minds, and now she lives with Jesus, listening to an unending playlist of music. Thank you all for coming. May God bless you as you respond to his voice. So remember the stories and tell them as we go today. Thank you much. Thank you, Amanda. Coffee time.